Welcome back to the channel, good friends. Brian from Apex Detail. Today we're working on an E30 BMW convertible, a 91 to be specific. We're getting the PDR, or paintless dent repair, out of the way first, and then we'll do a rinseless wash and continue on with a paint correction. This has a very, very thin surface, and I'll explain why in just a little bit. We're going to be correcting some light blemishes, going after mostly oxidation. There are some paint chips to fill in, and here and there you're going to see some areas, and you're going to see a different shade of color. Let me know down in the comment section what they are and how they got there. For now, we're just going to pretend we didn't see them and move on. It's mostly going to be shaving oxidation from this single stage. They transitioned from single stage to clear coat in the years between 88 and the early 90s. This one here still has single stage, and I'll show you a little bit later how to find out if you're working on clear coat or single staged finishes. Here are some more of the areas that I pointed out on the hood, and what they're from is somebody getting way too rambunctious with a polisher. Somebody that was chasing perfection. Here with the swirl finder, you'll see some of the imperfections a little bit more clearly. Some love marks. This is a harder finish. So it's going to take a little bit of aggression to remove some of these, but we're going to do it very carefully, measuring along the way, every single panel, cleaning out our pads, and I will show you that step by step as we get into this. As Junior here starts with the rinseless, waterless wash, depending on what type of surface it is and how dirty it is. A car that is a classic, collectible, or antique, we don't want to test the seals. So we're not going to use a pressure washer. We're going to use the waterless or the rinseless technique to get it clean. And in the meantime, while he's doing that, I can show you in and around the car, under the hood, inside, in the trunk area. It's in very, very good shape, original shape. The interior smells nice and fresh. Doesn't smell like the usual used knee brace soaking in clam juice. I think it's absolutely fantastic and worth the time that we're going to put into it. Even has the original looking full spare. Often asked how I can easily tell the difference between single stage and clear coated finishes, and that's an easy one, guys. Just take a microfiber, a lighter colored one, dip it in a little bit of polish, and massage any area, any inconspicuous area on the car. If you get transfer like I showed you here, you're working with single stage or a tinted clear. Tinted clear is going to come off a light pink on this color, single stage dark red. Walking around the car with a paint depth gauge, you'll see in the areas where you can see through the color coat to the primer down below, we're all, only at 2 mils thickness. And that's really the thickness of each layer. So if you had a base coat, color coat, clear coat, we should be 3.5, 4.5, 5.5, 6 mils. Somebody took this down way too far, and we're going to have to keep that in mind. No problem. We'll take care of it.
Trying to hook this up with some nice red, white, and blue spark plug boot protectors with a little flare. John, is Slinky near or far?
Junior is going to start masking off areas that we don't want a polishing pad or backing plate to bump up against and either stain or damaged. It can happen. Things happen. You get distracted. You can easily and quickly change things around where you're spending money on trim or grommets. So mask them off. While he's doing that, I'm going to start to fill in some of these paint chips, only the larger ones. The owner's working with a budget, which makes sense. And with common sense, we're not going to put a ton of time into a vehicle that's almost near having a patina finish with the primer coming through the color coat. Here we have touch-up ordered by the owner and brought in for the appointment. Sometimes I'll take care of it. I have a body shop that will mix together an exact match. But either way, there are solvent-based and water-based touch-up kits that you can purchase. I prefer the solvent-based. Some of them can take 24 hours plus to cure, so that's going to be one of the first things we get done so it can cure in time before we start getting the polisher and or wet sanding. You can really go down the rabbit hole when it comes to filling rock chips or scratches. With the constant filling and sanding until it's nice and flat, we prefer just filling it in once and moving on with the job. But on some of the higher end jobs, you could put a day or two into it easily. Next up, I'd like to introduce you to a product maybe you've not seen on the channel or anywhere else. This is Kamikaze's Glaze. It's an all-in-one polish glaze and protectant. It has very minor abrasives for correcting. It has some filling resins, which is taboo to some people for some reason, but on a finish this thin where you can't go after every imperfection, it's going to be key to giving us a very special look. And it also has protection where it can bead and give you a little bit of protection for a month or two. This product can be used by hand or machine. I'm going to first show you what it can do by hand. I have a foam applicator. You can use microfiber as well. And this is a thin, milky substance. Almost reminds me of the consistency of Angel Wax Perfect Polish for those that have had the pleasure to work with that. But this has protection in it, so this goes a step beyond. And you will also see the transfer onto this application pad. Once you're finished doing your correction, you let it sit on the surface until it slightly hazes over and just wipe off the residue from there, leaving behind the resins and protection. And as mentioned earlier, it can be worked with a machine, a dual action polisher of any size, even a rotary. So let me give you a sample of how that would work. So what I'm doing right now, besides showing you what's going on here, is test areas. Every vehicle, multiple test areas to see what works, starting with the very least aggressive method necessary and working up from there. Also, a great shot of the transfer, the finish coming off onto the pad as we shave it. That needs to be cleaned off between every pass. And that will keep your pads effective and make it a timely correction. Let me quickly wipe off the residue. It's hazed over a bit. We can remove the residue and I can show you some results and what we're going to be looking at for a change on this finish without hardly any finish or measurable finish being removed. A safe correction, guys. One more little test area. We're going to use the machine and a combination I picked out on the hood, and we'll see what type of turnaround. I'm hoping it removes the love marks and the oxidation. There's pitting and some very deep scratches that they're not going anywhere. They're going to remain. But the hope is that the gloss will be so extreme it takes the attention away from the observer and the whole finish just looks fantastic. As you'll notice, every time I'm using a polisher, the arm movement's under control, not a ton of pressure. It's low, between the third and fourth. It's never screaming and spiking heat on some of these older finishes. That's a no-no. And then once again with the Kamikaze Glaze, you want to let it haze over a bit. We'll wipe that off, pull off the tape, and we'll come in and take a look. We're also going to measure gloss, the jump we get with this product. I know throughout the vehicle it's going to be low to mid 80s is where we're going to start, and we want to end up, after protection and cure time, way above the triple digits. So just with some careful polishing alone, we're going to raise the gloss meter by 10 units, and that's before protection, and that will do. It's a good start anyway. So I'm going to hand off the polishing step here, the rest of it to my son, and the combination we picked out is the Glaze with a cordless polisher, 15 millimeter throw, and just an average foam cutting pad. This would be a little bit too aggressive on some softer clears, but this hard single stage, it's perfect. With the shop manager looking over us, Junior will take the larger panels. I'm going to start breaking out some of the smaller polishers. We're going to need all of them, and most of the attachments and backing plates and pads as well. The young man here has come across this more than once or twice, and he knows what to do. He's going to circle the area, and as he gets closer to the center where the paint is the thinnest, it's going to be the lightest of pressure and a pass or two, and then move on, just to sort of clean up the area. Needless to say, no matter which panel we move on to next, within arm's reach will be the paint depth gauge, keeping track of what we remove. What we want to see within the gauge itself is no measurable finish transferred onto the pad. Moving along nicely, here is an area where it does have a deep gouge and scratch, and we will not be chasing after perfection. That's what led the last owner or detailer into trouble with this finish. As we get dialed in with every panel, we're going to be stepping down to smaller and smaller polishers and backing plates and pads as we go, to get every square inch of the finish shaved off and cleaned up. My favorite part of the correction when we get down to the smaller polishers and the more tedious areas of the car, and the pad is of course clogged again. As mentioned earlier, all hands on deck when it comes to polishers and pads and backing plates, all sizes. We did not remove any badges. It was not in the budget, so we polish as tightly up against them as we can. Yup, pad's clogged. Where's the pad cleaner? The correction phase is finished. We can now remove the masking tape and get ready for the protection phase. So yes, the Kamikaze Glaze is almost like a primer to the BC2. And they work together. I've used it and looks fantastic and lasts impressively long for what it is. The primer acts like Velcro, wanting to latch on to blue color too as we lay it down. And when it cures, I think you're going to like the way it looks.
Great, there we go. I give up, man. Let's take this thing out, blow the leaves off of it real quick. All right, here we go. Here. You took my towel. Oh.
Intense gloss, crisp reflections. When you have a ton of gloss and reflection, it really does take away from some of the imperfections. It takes the attention away from that and onto other parts of the vehicle. Job complete. Shouldn't take more than 3/4 of a day. And then throw in a little bit of cure time before it gets released back to the customer to enjoy. Shop manager pleased, and we have increased gloss by at least 15 units in some areas. And you can see a change visually with your own eyes every 4 to 5 gloss units. So a nice drastic change for the E30. So I wanted to share this video so it shows you can make a drastic change without drastically altering the surface or removing too much single stage or clear coat. Not to make fun of or belittle the person before me that may need an eye-opening and a little bit of tutoring. Just to be aware that you don't have to remove a ton of material to make a car look good and chase perfection. There is no such thing.